I would basically tell guys, to start networking early, like start, talking to like teammates, finding out about, what guys' families do, maybe in your area. Like if, a lot of guys were from Ontario, if their dad owns an engineering company, their dad is a real estate mogul, start finding out what people around you do or connections that you have, and just start thinking about things find out what you're really passionate about. Like find something that when you're done playing, like we've all done it, like until the end, when you're kind of getting sick of it, hockey never felt like a job for me. Like, and I'm sure it didn't for you guys. Like find something that you're passionate about, that when you're working, it doesn't feel like you're working. You know what I mean? Find something, whatever it might be, whether it's teaching, whether it's, helping, like being an ambulance guy, a paramedic, whatever your thing is, a construction guy, working with your hands. Just find something that you're passionate about. And while you're doing that, just build a network, build clientele, like start talking to people, start asking questions. There's never, you can never ask bad questions. Just constantly networking, constantly promoting whatever it is that you might be doing or want to do. And yeah, just find something you're passionate about and go for it, man. That's pretty much what I would tell anybody coming up.
All right, we are ready to rock and roll. Welcome everybody to the Pucks to Properties podcast. We got Tom, we got Brett. We'll get rocking and roll. We'll introduce you in a second. But before we get rocking and roll, like we do every single episode, just want to give a shout out, obviously, to our sponsors, Riva Global. It's a premier virtual assistant company and also a real estate investment company, Pertrock, here in Connecticut. We do stuff nationwide. So with that being said, Tom Mealy, why do we do this podcast? What do we got?
Robert, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a week or so. You've been jet setting all over the place, so welcome back. Business related, I know. CG, big deal. I never get the invite, no problem. We do this podcast because we want to give back to the game that basically made the three of us who we are. It's been so good to us, but at the end of the day, it is a game. It will end eventually, and you have to figure out what the hell you're going to do with your life after. A lot of the guys we have on this show are either in real estate, in business, entrepreneurs, got into the business world when they were done playing, went through some lulls, got through it, and now they are success stories. And it all is because of the mentality they had while they were playing and the levels that they played at that molded them into the guys that they are. And we are grateful. And we are here to help guys transition and, if there's job opportunities and ways to bring on team members and do business with people that you know and like. That is why we have created this platform. And where it's going over the next few years, I have no idea, but I hope it grows and I hope it is successful.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. We have a cool guest today. This one's pretty cool because Brett reached out to us actually through Instagram. He was a viewer of our podcast, which is actually really, really cool. But his background, really fun. I've never met a hockey player rapper before in my life. So He's got pretty good. And University of Huntsville, Alabama, D1 scholarship. Athlete in hockey, played minors for a long time. You could get into your stuff, and now is in the business world and the real estate world. Obviously, you have music background as well. We will dig into that. But anyway, Brett, thanks for joining us. Give us a couple minute rundown of you and where you're at today.
All right, Bob. Basically, so my name is Brett McConnachie, like you said. I grew up in Ajax, Ontario. Played multiple different sports growing up, but I ended up sticking with hockey, played AAA, juniors, blah, blah, blah. Ended up getting a scholarship. I went down to Alabama-Huntsville. I had a few other offers to go to a bunch of different schools, but a lot of them, I went as a true freshman. So I went right out of high school, which is kind of rare for D1 anyways. So I had some other teams, like I had an offer from Western Mich, Minnesota State, but they all wanted me to play another year junior. and I was ready to go. And so when I went down to Alabama-Huntsville, I had a really good time. It was probably the only school I was 17 that actually let me experience the college life, if you put it that way. So they kind of sold me on that, and I had a great time. Ended up going there, played in the minors for a few years, and I started going this way. I was going downwards, like league-wise, instead of going that way. So after
we don't like that. We don't like that trajectory.
No, it was fun and all, but my last couple of years, I was at a point. I was playing in the Central League at that time, which ended up merging with the East Coast League. But it was like, I knew that was pretty much it for me. So I figured, you know what, at this point, maybe I'll step down a league. I ended up going down to the Southern Pro League. I just had a great time. I had a few buddies on one of the teams I went to, and had a blast, and ended up going back for one more year for a little victory lap. And then my body couldn't take it anymore, and I knew it was time to start figuring out what I was going to do. So I ended up calling it, and that was pretty much how everything kind of got started for me.
All right, let's back into it. Let's talk about your rapper days, your musician days. Like, all right, first of all, I didn't even know Alabama-Huntsville had a hockey team.
It's crazy.
Dude, I was a BU guy. Tom's an AIC guy. I had no idea. I
know, it's crazy. A lot of people don't. And I mean, at that time, it was wild. Like, it was the only, I think they say it was the only Division I hockey team south of the Mason-Dixie line or whatever. But I think there's Arizona State now. But yep. I had no idea who they were either. Like, when I was playing juniors, after a game, I ended up talking to one of their coaches who was scouting, and he said where he was from. And I was like, Alabama-Huntsville. I go, is that like D3, D2? Like, what is that? So I ended up looking it up and found out a bunch about it. And yeah, man, it was a great program, and it was a wicked place to play. They had a great barn down there. They had a really good following at that time. Like, I was there from 03 to 07. We had a pretty solid team. My senior year, we ended up going to the NCAA tournament. Nice. And obviously we were the 16th seed. We played Notre Dame, who had only lost twice all year. We lost in triple overtime. So we almost knocked off the number one seed in the country in that tournament. But we were a real good team. It was a great program. Obviously, the weather was amazing. Christmas time, going to the rink in shorts and sandals was pretty cool. Golfing all year round. I love golf, so that was super cool. But yeah,
dude, I want to go back. Forget BU. I want to go to
right. And a lot of guys too. Like, when you guys know, like, when you had buddies that played at different schools, when they would come down and play us, they would always ask. Like, I was always kind of the tour guide, per se. I would take guys out even on a Friday night after a game. It was a great party school. It was a really good school. But it was super, super unknown for a long time. And it's no longer. They ended up folding up shop a few years back. The president wants to bring in football, I guess, which makes sense, and considering you're in Alabama. But man, that was tough news. But honestly, it was a wicked place to play. I wouldn't go back and change anything if I had the chance to. It was awesome.
All right, music. Before we get to real estate, tell us a little bit about music.
Okay, so music, to give you kind of the long and short of it, it started in high school, grade 12. I played basketball in high school. It was around the time, remember that movie 8 Mile with Eminem when that came out?
Well, how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
So you're a point guard, I'm guess?
I played I kind of played like small forward shooting guard. I was obviously undersized, but I was like 210, and think about the big boys in high school who were 6'5" and they were 150 pounds. So I could kind of bang around on the post a bit. But I'm not saying I was like a top 3 player on the team or anything. I was like a seventh man kind of thing.
Dude, you were a hockey player playing basketball. Enough said.
Right. So so we had a really good team too. But so long story short, I was the only white guy on the team for one. I lived just outside of Toronto. Growing up, it was very multicultural, which was an unbelievable experience. And all the boys used to rap and stuff. And I kind of started doing it more as like a joke, like just being the funny guy, and long story short, after a couple of years, I started actually getting pretty good at it. Then I went down to Alabama. I won a couple like freestyle competitions, ended up signing like a management deal with a company. I had no idea. I'd never written music. I'd never recorded music. Ended up putting an album together. And that year we sold almost 60,000 copies on campus. So it kind of took off, and I just kind of stuck with it, to be honest with you. And I ended up doing some huge, I opened up for, if you can check my Wikipedia page, I opened up for Lil Wayne, I opened up for Ludacris, I opened up for a Young Jeezy, Machine Gun Kelly, tons of big names. Did some really cool stuff.
Did you just say you opened up for G-Eazy?
No, not G-Eazy, Young Jeezy. Young Jeezy.
Okay.
But
does it matter?
Yeah, and you guys, and then I ended up touring. I ended up going on tour with the Locks too, like Jadakiss, Styles P, Chic Luch. I did some really cool stuff, and then it was kind of an issue with hockey for me. Like when I was playing in the minors, like a lot of the coaches didn't really like it. You know, at that time the persona went with it, and I was a bit of a partier, so it was a good excuse to kind of lay into me when I had when the breath was a little boozy at practice in the morning. But yeah, it ended up going really well. And when I stopped playing hockey, I ended up staying down like just outside of Atlanta area for a year. I was trying to like pursue it for real. And I pretty much just kind of gave up and that was it. And then about 12 years later to this day, I kind of started again doing like team anthems like after 12 years of not doing music. So this year I've done 50 different hockey team anthems, like, like pump up songs, win songs. I did one for the University of Michigan. I did one for the Team USA World Junior Team. And like this was all like through them. It's not like me just making the song and posting it. And in 2 weeks, I have a song coming out for the Boston Bruins for the playoff run. So I just got a contract with them. So I kind of got back into it. And so I got a lot of stuff on the go. You guys can check out my Spotify. It's Brett Will on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. My middle name's William, if you're wondering where Will comes from. But yeah, man, so I'm just having a good time with it. And it's just another hobby of mine that's turned into, a pretty solid, successful income. So that's basically that for you there, Bobby.
That's very cool.
Yeah, man.
He definitely sounds like a Canadian dude. Definitely.
Well, he is, that's for sure.
That's good. So let's roll this in. I know, Tom, you have a bunch of questions because
I'm a guest on this show. I'm just listening to this shit. Holy fuck!
It's gonna be a fun one. We got boozy breath. We got. Wait, hold on. What coach? Because I always had this issue too. What coach would break your balls with smell like booze in the morning?
Like like the actual individual coach?
The ones that sucked.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I actually had one coach. What was his name? His name was. This was
if you sucked at hockey when you played, you were the coach that was fucking bitching at guys.
For sure. Usually it was that way, or you were the guy that wasn't necessarily one of his favorites because like the top scorer on the team, he could come reeking like booze. He wouldn't say a word. But one of the guys was. It was actually pretty funny. His name was Tom Stewart. I think he coached me in Fayetteville in the SP. One morning. We were out till 7:30 in the morning, went right to practice at 8:30. I could barely skate. Like I was still so drunk. Like I could barely skate. He ends up just blowing the whistle and he just goes, "Mac, get the fuck off the ice." Like I didn't even get a full lap in because I smelled so bad. He just booted me right off the ice. So I got to hit the showers early that day. But multiple, man. I had almost every single coach that I played for. I just was very unlucky with my pores, I guess, because, man, even with the Vicks Vapor Rub on the neck and on the nose.
That's not going to do anything. I tried it. Trust me.
Just didn't work. So, yeah, I was kind of known for that. So, I could name 30 coaches. So I just thought that was one that stood out to me because he actually kicked me off the ice and just said, "Get the fuck out."
And those coaches usually had losing records too. I swear to God, if I'm looking back at my career, the guys who won were the guys that didn't give a shit about them.
Right. Or the guys that had a little camaraderie with the boys or whatever. Right?
Exactly.
For sure.
Okay, that reminds me of a story. Best story. Bruce Cassidy, obviously Bruce Cassidy, he was the Bruins guy. Now he's Vegas guy. He was one of the best coaches, especially pro coaches. He was our coach in Indianapolis, and we were on, I don't know, maybe a 10-game losing streak. And we went on a Western string. It was Long Beach, Utah, and Vegas.
Okay.
And we won. I think we won. We won in Utah. And then, we had a curfew. And then we won in Vegas, and he's like, "Fuck it, boys." We literally had to just be on the bus to the airport. So we were flying to Utah. He goes, "Just be on the bus." We had a game the next day. So we roll in, like literally half of the guys are rolling in at about 7:00. The flight's at about 9. It was
how did that next game go? How did the next game go after that?
We actually we won, and we won.
I bet you. I was gonna say, I bet you won.
Wow.
We won in shootouts against Nikolai Hobby Bulin. And we were dude, it was phenomenal. So we went on a run. We turned it around. We ended up making the playoffs. We had to win the last 5 games, and we won. And then we went on a little run. But it was so to your point, the best coaches are the ones that understand that. They know how to break that kind of monotony and then change it and turn it. So anyway,
it makes sense. Like you guys know, how much closer are those teams that you've played on? That like the majority of you guys get along. Majority of the guys like to have beers together. It's not cliquey. You don't have 4 guys there. For like when everyone goes out together, for the most part, I always find that teams are closer and the results on the ice are better. The barrel at the end of the season might not be the cleanest, but the results are usually pretty good. That's for sure.
For sure. All right, let's transition the boozing to real estate. You have a pretty unique story, because I know in Canada it's a little different than the United States. But we were talking before we got on camera about offsetting taxes, avoiding capital gains, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll get to that. You have a unique kind of process where you buy a house, live in it, and then rinse and repeat. But give us a quick rundown of how you got into real estate and what you're doing today.
Okay, so basically, I think it was I was about 2 years, year and a half from done being playing. So when I came home after my career, I lived at home for about a year and a half with my parents, which was quite the treat after being away for 15 years. But I just kind of saved up money. It was all entrepreneur stuff. Like I was a personal trainer, trained hockey players. I did everything under the sun except for having a 9-to-5 possible, and ended up saving up enough money to buy a house, which was like a townhouse at that time. If I remember correctly, I bought it for $300,000 in 2012. And it was one of those places. I actually lived in that one for 3 or 4 years. I hadn't been into the flip game yet. Yep. And my buddy across the street, that was an absolute beauty, ended up selling. And he told me what he sold the place for. He's like, I just got like $700,000. This was like 2016 when the market up here started going crazy. So I was like, whoa, like I had no idea. So I ended up selling my place not too long after that, and ended up buying my next property, which was a beautiful home, like corner lot that just was like, it was probably built in 1983, and everything in the house was from 1983. Like this place was like gross, but when you pulled up to it, it had great curb appeal, and it was like, wow, this place is pretty sick. So ended up starting to get into that, where I'd buy a house like that, put whatever, 100 to 250 grand into it, full gut jobs, stay in it for a year and like a day. I would sell it, and then all the profit I would basically put forward into the next place. And like you said there, Bob, it was like rinse and repeat. Yep. So I ended up doing that 5 years in a row. While that was happening, I bought a couple new builds as well that still aren't ready, but should be ready by the end of this year or early 25. But currently, to answer that question, from luck of God, the house that I'm in now, this was the first time that I had downsized. So out of like 5 in a row, I was going from 1,800 square foot townhouse to 3,000 square foot detached place. I ended up downsizing to the place that I'm in now, which is a detached home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, like nothing crazy. But the market up here like took a major like 50 to 60% dip in the last year and a half, which just so happened that this was the first time that I had downsized and bought something that is kind of still similar to what the worth of the property was when I bought it. Whereas a couple of the houses I was looking at in the 1.7 to 1.8 range that I didn't get because I lost out on bidding wars now are down to like 1.2, 1.1. So I would have, lost a 600 or 700K if I didn't end up getting this place. So knock on wood, I've got really lucky with it. I like to say it's skill and knowledge of what's about to happen, but I'd be full of shit. So right now I've been in this place for about a year. So I'm just kind of monitoring the market, maybe looking at making a play in the springtime, maybe the summer, but we will see. So that's kind of what's going on right now.
So when are you going to start actually build? So did you buy the land? Did you buy the lots? And then, explain that a little bit.
Oh, like what, for the new builds?
Yeah.
No. So basically is I bought, it's not like I bought the land. It's a neighborhood that's being built. Yeah. I bought a home that hasn't, they hadn't touched ground yet. So it's got, you pick your lot, and then the builder builds the house. And once the house is ready and the neighborhood's ready, then you get property of the house. So it's not like I'm involved at all in any of the, the details on the inside of the house.
So you're buying a almost a pre-developed property. So
correctly. Yeah, exactly what it is.
I mean, this is important because obviously markets change, like you said. Can you walk on this deal? Or will you lose your deposit? What does that look like?
Yes, you would lose your deposit. Basically, like you're locked in. So the only thing that you could do, the thing up here in Ontario, anyways, with new build properties, is you have to, like, you can't just like buy one of those 3 years before they're ready for whatever, 500 grand. And then when it's ready, sell it for $1.5 million. Like you actually have to own the property for a year. So I know, like I was talking about the capital gains tax on selling and your profits, but you can't just buy a new build when it's built, flip it. You actually have to hold on to it for a year. So you can either rent it out, for a year to whoever, or you can move into it, blah, 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 whatever. But so this is I was just looking on my phone. This is like the new build. This is actually that's the house. So that's basically what it's going to look like. That's like a blueprint picture kind of thing. So I'm waiting for I have 2 of those coming. So I'm waiting for those to be ready. And then, I might try to make one more flip in between, because if they say early 25, it's usually end of 25 by the time they're ready. So
the takeaway though, I mean, the important takeaway there is there's different types of strategies out there, right? So you have more of the long-term strategy. You're hoping for appreciation, right? You're going to buy it for, $500,000. You're hoping it's 700, 800, 900 grand after a year. So
right.
And the other play of that is you have to make sure that rent covers, or you're going to take it in the shorts.
For sure. Right. And that's the thing. And then if for whatever reason you can't rent it out, then all of a sudden you're carrying multiple properties and paying multiple mortgages. So it's this is the first time that I've went that route. So I'll have to circle back with you guys, let you know how it goes. So this is a new one for me, but it seems like it's a no-brainer. Like, you're buying the properties for 40% less than what the value of that home would be in terms of size and location. So it's a no-brainer. It's just a matter of
set with the costs. Are you guys do you have fixed costs? Because what happens if the cost of product goes up? You know what I mean?
In terms of like on that property itself?
Yep. Yeah, so you buy that property.
Yeah. So you're locked in. So if I bought it for $1 million at that time, let's say 2 years ago, and whatever the cost of it, like lumber, the cost of lumber has gone nuts since COVID or whatever. If all those costs on the outside or in the world have gone up, that, in the contract, that cannot change what, your purchase price was. You're locked in at that price. So there's no, changing things around or them coming back to you and saying this, saying that. It's just, it is what it is. So you don't have to worry about stuff like that. It's just, you got to worry about what the market is going to be like when the time that home is ready. But more importantly, I guess a year after, because you got to keep it for a year anyway. So this is a new one for me. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a different type of strategy there.
For sure.
All right. So when you moved in, so let's talk about, obviously, towards the end, this is what we like to get into, because obviously there's, and I know, Tom, you have a bunch of questions on this side, but when you started getting towards the end of your career, right now you're a rapper, right?
That's one. Yeah, I am. That's one of my, I consider myself in real estate, and I'm in music. Those are my two. Yeah.
So let's talk about when you're still playing hockey, right? Towards the end of your career, right? You're in is it the Southern League, you said?
Yeah. I finished in the the SPHL is where I finished. Yeah.
Okay. And you're in, what team was that? Was that
Fayetteville Fire Ants at that time.
The Fire Ants.
Yeah. Look out, boys. The Fire Ants are coming.
The Fire Ants are coming to town.
They're going to sting you. They're going to sting you.
You're going to sting you. How was the crowds there? How were the crowds?
It was pretty good, man. It was actually really good. That was the one thing that's in that league, actually, at that time, that I was really impressed about was the attendance. Like, I think we averaged about 4,500, in a rink that held about 6.
That's great.
And it was a huge military town. Like, Fort Bragg is there. It's like the biggest military base in the U.S. So when we'd have military nights, like once a month, it would be crazy. Like, it would only be military people in uniform, sold out. But it was pretty good there, man.
How were the bars down there? How was the bar scene?
It was okay. I definitely shopped around quite a bit. I did a lot of research on that, found out where the hidden gems were, but they had a little downtown core with there was basically 2 or 3 places you'd go on a Saturday night that were okay. But again, it was a lot of fun. It just took a little bit of shopping around to find out where you should and where you shouldn't go, because there were some pretty bad spots too. So, but it was good, man. It was good. I definitely didn't have any shortage of having a good time. That's for sure.
You obviously showed up a couple times with some alcohol breath a couple times?
A couple times. Like, once or twice, just to dip my toes in, but nothing too crazy.
See, when I played in Italy for 1 year, and it was the same thing. So you'd practice at 10 o'clock, we'd go work out after, you'd take a nap for the rest of the day, and then you'd be drinking, pretty much all night. And then that's more rinse and repeat.
And that's exactly it. That's the problem. That's why I kind of basically one of the reasons I stopped playing. Like a long story short, one of the kids that I played with in Fayetteville, he was from my hometown, a few years younger. He ended up winning Rookie of the Year that year in the league. He had like 30 snipes or something. but me and him were roommates. We went out 48 nights in a row. Like, I mean, went out because you'd be like, I actually had a decent year in terms of pro numbers for me. I think I had like 30 points in 50 games or something. That was good for me at that time. But we were on a roll, you know, say we were a week in and we were going out every night, and he was sniping a couple. I might get a Tilly and an apple. We're like, we got to do it again. We went out like I think it was 38 to 42 nights in a row on the road, hard. And it was just unbelievable. We couldn't stop. And like you said, every morning I remember driving to practice with him. Some days we'd stop at McDonald's, get a McMuffin, you know, and a coffee. And we'd be like, not tonight, bro. Like, we're not doing this again. It's like, enough of this. And then we'd have practice, hit the showers, and we're driving home. We'd look at each other and be like, want to stop by Hooters for a pint? And then there it goes all over again. So yeah, it was tough to get away from that, man.
Good old Hooters, right? They'll send you.
That was one of the daytime, like, you know, you can't get a better spot. Like at 1 p.m. in the afternoon where, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about. So we used to go there quite a bit, and you know, it was a hell of a time, man. I'll tell you.
I was a Twin Peaks guy. I don't know if you guys know what that place is.
No, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
It's like Hooters is like the American League. Twin Peaks is like the NHL.
Really?
Same concept. Just
a little
better product,
bigger bank accounts.
And
that's wicked.
From food to the drinks to the talent. So it was just, I mean, my wife knows. I took my wife to Twin Peaks once. We went there for drinks one day. She's like,
where was Twin Peaks?
Twin Peaks is big in the Midwest. So
okay.
Yeah. But anyway, that's my.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Just don't carry on too much, but
call it what it is, Brett. You're an entrepreneur. You know, you're not. I don't look at you as a rapper. I don't look at you as a real estate guy. You're an entrepreneur. You got revenue coming from every which way.
Yeah,
which is great. Question in terms of, you know, what's your day-to-day looking like right now in terms of structure, in terms of, obviously you don't have anyone telling you where to be. I want to touch on that, and I also want to. I have a question about the new build that you're doing right now, the new construction. So,
okay,
whatever one you want to hit on first, go right ahead.
Yeah. So basically, like what a normal weekday would look like for me is I'm kind of a night hawk. I'm usually, you know, in bed pretty late, so I get up. I'd say between 9:30 and 10:30 every day. That's kind of when I wake up. I'll have my coffee. I'll putter around for 45 minutes, and I'll go to the gym, which is like right around the corner from my house. So I'm usually in and out of there by 12:30. I come home, shower, check the market, check my investments, my stocks, kind of do a little bit of homework on, you know, more or less real estate stuff, check out, you know, properties that have popped up that day, et cetera, et cetera. And then usually I'll spend 3 to 4 hours working on music, whether it's writing or listening to different production that's been sent to me. And then in the evenings, 3 to 4 days a week, I'm at the recording studio from, say, 5:30 p.m. to anywhere from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., just depending on the day. So that's basically my weekdays. That's kind of how they go. And then the weekends, I hang out with my girlfriend. She works during the days, during the week, so I don't see her too much. And me and her usually chill out on the weekends. I'm kind of out of the whole boozy scene per se. So I'm a little more laid back these days. So that's kind of what day to day looks like for me.
Nice. Do you think that, you know, a lot of the guys we have on this show, the hardest part was, you know, getting out of hockey and essentially not being told what to do every second of the day in terms of schedule, in terms of what to eat, where to be, what plane ride to catch, bus trips, et cetera. Do you feel that you took your discipline from sports and moved it into?
Yeah, I mean, in a way for sure. But I mean, I guess it depends where you played, you know, like our university, there was, like, listen to this. You had Alabama-Huntsville had to be the only D1 program that there was no class requirements. So like, if I didn't go to class all week, if I missed every class, there was absolutely zero repercussions. As long as your GPA was at a certain level, you know, it was fine. So when I talked to my other buddies who went to other schools, when they went into pro, guys that went to schools that were stricter on the training and on school, I felt were a little more disciplined. Where when I came at Alabama-Huntsville, it was like, if I don't want to do this, I don't do this. Like, no one's telling me to go to class. So if I don't have to go to class, but I can still get an 80 on the test, if I can study the night before, that's fine. So that was almost the way that I think my entrepreneurship started, because I figured out ways to, I don't want to say cheat the system, but I figured out ways around certain things that I didn't enjoy. Like, I didn't like sitting in class. I got terrible ADHD. So that's terrible. Sitting in class was hard, but I can study 2 nights before a test and still do well without being there. But can you guys, like, when you guys both, did you guys both play college? Yeah, you went to AIC and you were BU?
Yep.
Right. So did you guys have to go to class?
Yep.
Like if you missed an 8 a.m. class, you weren't practicing that day?
Oh, no.
We were a little more strict at that time, and for us,
We were definitely strict though. We had study hall and shit. So
wow.
And
listen to this too. We didn't even have like team workouts. Like we did it this, you know, when you go to school in like August or early, like we would train hard for that month and a half. But once the season started, there was no team structured workouts. So like, you know, if you didn't want to go to the gym, you didn't have to unless you were a slob. But like you could just literally, I would go in there and just pump biceps and chest. And like it wasn't like, you know, it was like we obviously had the athletic trainer for the team, the weight guy, he'd be there. But he didn't make us do cleans. I didn't have to do any hang snatches. I was just pumping buys, boys. So it was it was a little bit crazy that the stuff that happened there. So, but I kind of give it credit for me kind of figuring out how to do things the way I wanted to do in a way. But it definitely didn't help my pro career because I went in a little bit off the cuff, you know.
Well,
so.
the girls at Hooters need the chest and the arms, dude. You know what I mean?
100% they do. I'm just grabbing my charger real quick. The girls from Hooters absolutely need that. So, you know. Anyways, but that's basically that, boys. But yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm just plugging this thing in here. My bad.
All right. Preston will edit this part.
And we should be good. So yeah, so we are all good, boys. Ready to go to Hooters for some wings here.
For sure. All right, hey, let's keep going along that path because that's important on the entrepreneur.
No, I mean this is a real estate podcast, so let's talk about real estate a little bit.
Yeah.
Hooters and boozing and all this shit. So I just want to know, like, what's your mindset in terms of real estate transactions? Is it kind of, if they fall in your lap, you will entertain it? Are you reaching out to basically, you know, market and find deals? Are you kind of doing like a handful of deals a year on the side, and, you know, music and entrepreneurship stocks is your main focus? And this all ties into my question about this new build. So is this new build that you just purchased? I mean, you have a deposit, you're locked in, contract, all that stuff. Is this I got it at an amazing price, this is what it's going to be worth in 2-3 years when it's done, and I'm just going to list it and basically cash in on my investment? Or is this kind of like an opportunity is this going to be a place where you're going to live and be
like a forever home kind of thing or something like that? Yeah. So honestly, to answer that honestly is I'm not 100% sure yet. Because I don't know exactly what it's going to look like in terms of, you know, all the finishes and stuff, because I don't want to you could pay the builder extra to do, you know, certain granite quartz countertops or do certain things, but I can get stuff at better rates and probably better stuff. Like I just would want the house done however the bare minimum would be to what the builder would do. Like, I don't want to have any upgrades whatsoever because I'm going to probably end up doing work to it anyways. But I don't honestly, Tommy, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. If I might live in it for a year. I have to keep it for a year. So depending on the market, it's just, there's so many variables that come into play with that. And I don't it's definitely not in my plans for that to be a place I'm going to move into and that be my forever home. Like, that's not really in the plans. It's more or less an investment to make money. It's pure income. So it's just a matter of how long I'll keep it, what the market's like. Do I rent it? Do I move into it? You know, it's just, there's a lot of variables. And as to answer your other question, for the real estate stuff, I have a wicked agent, Liz McKinnon. Shout out, Liz. She's always looking for me, always working, sending me properties, sending me lists of homes that have sold in the last couple of weeks in my area. Will send me comparables. Will send me stuff that comes up that's already renoed. Will send me stuff that comes up that, you know, are dated and need work. So it's a constant hunt. I'm always looking. If something comes up that seems like, you know what, this is a crazy deal, or this looks like it could be exactly what I'd want to do with it inside, or whatever the case may be, I'm always looking. So, you know, it's usually an annual thing. It's usually one a year I'm moving for sure. But to answer the whole new build thing, the reason that I bought that is because the way it works here with the interest rates right now, they are so high. So me being an entrepreneur and what I show on paper, it's tough to hold on to multiple, 3-4 properties at one time. But when you buy a new build, that doesn't go against your, the equation that they use for what you need to, get your mortgage at a certain level. So I can own my properties, have that new build coming that does not affect what I'm doing right now. So that was another reason why I bought it. So I'll make sure before it's ready that I unload one of the other ones to make sure that I can hold on to that one properly when it's ready to move in. So that's kind of the way it works here anyway.
Tom, I want to jump. I get a question about, so we ask this question a lot, and I know you being in the playing for Fayetteville, did you guys ever talk about life after the game? Did you ever talk about real estate? Did you ever talk? I know you probably talked more about music maybe than real estate at times. Like, what did you guys talk about? Are there any individuals that you were in a locker room with that you had very meaningful conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really good question. We used to talk about a lot of stuff. Especially me, I love talking. So, but yeah, we used to talk about what we were going to do because I had no idea, at the time. Obviously my goal was to sign a major record deal and do that. Obviously, anyone who's in music or acting wants to do. But yeah, we used to talk about it. All I knew was certain things, certain guys would talk about, say that their father, was in Toronto Hydro, for example. My dad, he's a lineman or was a lineman. If guys had connections or were brought up in a family that had something, maybe a contracting company their dad ran, it seemed like guys kind of always were looking for some way that they could get into something with a connection, right? No matter what it be. A lot of guys that I played with ended up being firemen. That used to be a big conversation that we'd have because of their schedules. I don't know how it works down there, but they work up here. They work 7 days straight, and then they don't work for 2.5 weeks. So they only work 10 days, 8 or 9 days. Sorry, it's 9 days a month they work, and they make pretty good salary, great benefits. And then they can do hockey schools on the side or whatever, a contracting business. So yeah, we used to talk about a lot of stuff, man. I honestly, I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I didn't want to be in an office. I knew I didn't want to have somebody telling me what to do every day. That's what I knew. But yeah, we used to talk about stuff like that a lot. It was just, yeah, I remember my last year in Fayetteville, we used to talk about this too. The guy, our captain was 39 or 40 at the time. So he used to sit right beside me in the locker room, and we lost in the President's Cup SPHL finals in Game 7. And I remember looking at him, and he had a big gray beard, and he was crying. And he was like, bro, I got to go home and start working landscaping next week. This sucks. And I just remember thinking at that time, I was 26, I do not want to be that guy, that's 40 years old, still grinding in the minors, and then literally having to go home and then work with your hands or sweat labor, all week long. So we used to talk about what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know exactly what. But Bobby, that's a great question, man.
What about how has your hockey network, has it helped you? Has it talk a little bit about that? Because obviously, every guest we get in here, they've used hockey one way or another.
100%. 100%. And I use it I've been what I'm doing right now with the music stuff, with the team anthems, with the, like I said, I've done 50 different team anthems in 3.5 months. And the first 15 of those were contacts that I had from guys I played with.
Love it.
I played in Fresno on the coast one year for Matt Thomas and Ryan Mouginel, who are now coaching together for the Providence Bruins in the American League. So that was the first, they knew I was doing music at the time. It was always, super cool with them. That was the first team that I did a song for. So that's kind of how I kind of built my catalog of my first 8 to 10 songs that I could use to send out to other programs and kind of give them an example of what I can do. So that is huge. I just did one for the Seattle Thunderbirds, who are the favorite to win the Memorial Cup, CHL, OHL, WHL, that league. Matt Odette is the head coach. He played with me in Fresno. He was my captain my first year. So it's that whole music team anthem thing. It's huge for that. Reach out to guys that are general managers or kids that are playing here, there. That's how I started doing it. So yeah, big time. I use those contacts every day.
So what is it? What is a team anthem? Is that the pump up? You do a pump up before the game?
Afterwards, if you guys check out my Spotify, I have the song I did for Team USA, the World Juniors, and the University of Michigan. And I got a couple, Seattle and Boston are going to be on there in the next 2 weeks. But it's just basically a full length 3-minute song that talks about that team. So every single player on that team I have in the song, like each guy gets a line.
Really?
Just like a little shout out. Basically, the team will send me information on their arena, on the name of it, the colors of their team. And then each player I'll get like 3 or 4 little, Bob, super physical, great pause, gritty in the corners. It'll just be like each kid will have 3 or 4 points on it, and I'll kind of use that to incorporate each person or player in the song. So that's basically how it works. Yeah. So it's just like a normal 3-minute song that they'll use in the arena when they take the ice and warm up. They play it in the room after for like a win song kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what it is.
Dude, that's really cool. I think back, when we played back in the day, I'm like, dude, that would be so freaking cool to have.
Yes,
right?
And it's crazy because me and Tom were talking before. He played in Tulsa, so like I played in Tulsa the first year that rink, the BOK, opened up, and I was doing music at that time. And every team that I played for, I would do one of those anthems for while I was playing on the team. And in Tulsa, I think we sold like 7,500 CDs, copies of that single for the team. And we were selling them at like $10 a piece. I'd get like $650 and the team would get like $350. But like I was making more money off CD sales in team arenas than I was playing by far. I was probably the highest paid player in the league, and I was on league minimum. So it was crazy, man. It was a lot of fun. But last crazy story about that, probably the only hockey player of all time, military night, Fayetteville, 6,500 people. After the first period, I go undress quick. I perform.
Come on.
Swear to God. I have pictures somewhere. I'll send them to you. Like just our team. It was like a 3-minute song. The team song that we had. I think I left the bench with like a minute left. Ran in, got changed, got into my gear. They had the whole light show set up. I performed the song at the intermission and ended up starting on the ice in the second. Ended up tilting right off the hop. But the guy beside me, he's like, "You're such a loser, bud. Like, you're an absolute embarrassment." So I ended up going from like on the stage rapping at an intermission to starting the period, got into the tilly.
You're like fucking Jackie Moon.
Oh my, yeah, seriously, right? But yeah, that's always one of my favorite stories because not many people can say they did that. And like the whole team, would be half dressed, like on the bench watching. And I just remember that same coach would pick me off the ice and be like, "We all right, boys?" Like before the game. "I know we got this fucking circus going on at intermission. I don't want anyone talking about it. I don't want to hear about it. It's a fucking circus. I don't know what the hell the front office is doing. It's embarrassing. Like, you're here to play hockey. What do you want to do? You want to be a hockey player? Or you want to be spitting rhymes? It's a fucking circus." So,
did you say, to be honest, I want to be spitting rhymes?
To be honest with you, it depends if you're here or not, buddy. But yeah, it was actually pretty funny, man. But some good times in the old Southern League, boys.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe you could do a 30-second intro clip for this show.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk about it for sure. I'd love to do something for you guys.
Bob, you ever listen to the Trang's podcast? The guy who got the beginning of that one.
Yeah. Who's?
This guy's Steve Trang.
No, okay.
One of our buddies. But he's got a podcast. The intro is a rap song for like 30
about his
seconds.
podcast.
Yeah, about his podcast.
Yeah, I think I've done like 10 or 11 podcasts like songs too. I'll send you guys some copies of it after. You guys can check out some of those.
No, perfect. I like it, dude. Selling all the time too. You're selling. I like it.
You have to. It's just I don't even mean to do it, honestly. Like I don't intend to do it. It's just when you start talking, I'm just so passionate about it. I get excited, But yeah, so that's kind of my story, boys.
Cool. All right. I know, Tom, we're coming down to the 40th. We're on 42 minutes. So you have any last questions before we wrap it up?
Yep, we're gonna wrap it up. The only question I have for you, Brett, is what would you say to young guys coming out of hockey to thinking about transitioning, and what advice would you give them to make it a lot easier? Because obviously we were all there, and we always like to finish with this topic, because at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. That's a wicked question too. I would basically tell guys, to start networking early, like start, talking to like teammates, finding out about, what guys' families do, maybe in your area. Like if, a lot of guys were from Ontario, if their dad owns an engineering company, their dad is a real estate mogul, start finding out what people around you do or connections that you have. And just start thinking about things find out what you're really passionate about. Like find something that when you're done playing, like we've all done it, like until the end when you're kind of getting sick of it, hockey never felt like a job for me. Like, and I'm sure it didn't for you guys. Like, find something that you're passionate about, that when you're working, it doesn't feel like you're working. You know what I mean? Find something, whatever it might be, whether it's teaching, whether it's, helping, like being an ambulance guy, a paramedic, whatever your thing is, a construction guy, working with your hands. Just find something that you're passionate about. And while you're doing that, just build a network, build clientele, like start talking to people, start asking questions. There's never, you can never ask bad questions. Just constantly networking, constantly promoting whatever it is that you might be doing or want to do. And yeah, just find something you're passionate about and go for it, man. That's pretty much what I would tell anybody coming up.
Love it. Love it. Love
Awesome.
it. All right. With that being said, we have just a roundup. We have Twin Peaks. We got Hooters. We got find something you're passionate about. We got music. We got team anthems. Check it out. Brett Will on Spotify, right? Is that Brett Will on Spotify?
Yeah, Brett Will on Spotify. You got it.
Love it. Anyone has any questions, reach out to Brett anytime. Obviously, he's on social media all over the place. And, dude, Brett, it's been a pleasure, man. I don't think we laughed this hard on a podcast in a long time, dude. Thank you. Any parting words, brother? Any parting words?
Hey, Bob, Tom, I want to thank you guys. It was an absolute blast, man. And I just wanted to congratulate you guys on what you guys are doing. This is super unique. And that's what kind of interested me so much in this was, like as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's a great idea. Like, great, congrats on that. Kudos to the success you've had. I wish you guys the best moving forward. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, let me know. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Appreciate it.
Here,
Thanks.
Same here.
All right, boys. All the best.
Brett, Tom, thank you. Preston.
Hey, boys.
Sweet. Thanks a lot, guys.